Hello and welcome to the second edition of our Mazal Series. This class entitled, sorry I'm looking, can't memorize the title, What is my Mazal? Okay? Again, class number 2, new Mazal Series, What is my Mazal? Here we go. Hope you enjoyed the first round of classes last time. We broke the hour-long class into 4 segments. I endeavored today to teach another, God willing, hour-ish, and in the end I plan to break it into 3 segments. So you will be watching now the first of 3 segments, and if all goes according to plan, it will be followed by 2 more segments. And let's go ahead. Quick review from last time. It's a good thrust to come in from where we left off. Okay, I want to focus out of the text in these classes. I will give my own little notes and tidbits, but the text should be the real fundamental focus here. Any questions, comments, feedback, don't be afraid to voice openly. Let's make it as much interactive as possible. Also, chiming in with personal knowledge is gladly accepted in this series. Here we go. Mazal, chapter 1. Here we go. Again, the text that we're focusing out of, sorry about that, Otzer HaMazal, and in kind of a technical sense, Encyclopedia Le'inyane Mazal, for the modern people out there. Otherwise, Otzer HaMazal, what does Otzer mean?
Treasure house.
You changed the definition from last. It was I forget the word from last.
Repository.
The repository of Mazal, or the treasure house. Collection, I think is an easiest term, kind of a modern casual usage. The collection of Mazal, everything written in Zohar, Kabbalah, Talmud, anything rabbinic in the last 2,000 years is going to be in here of Mazal. It's a fantastic, fantastic work. These are not his opinions. Keep that in mind. This book does not contain one opinion. Not one. Thus, I am not giving one opinion. This is Chazal, it is Torah, it is endorsed by, like we said, at least 30 different approbations. You can look in, I don't know if you can find it online or whatever, but just to show the various haskamot, approbations. Where are they? Let's see here. It's not so nogea to this year, but if I can find them, looking upside down, here you go. All right, various endless pages of approbation. One after the other, right? Numerous. Okay, so it's not opinions. It is a collection of Chazal. Chazal is the authoritative Jewish Torah text of 2,000-ish years. With that said, let's get into the text and find out what he's bringing from. Chapter 1 of Hamazal. She'ein lecha dvar she'ein lo sar l'mala v'hu shluchu shamakom. Shita Mukubetzis Nadarim 56a. There's nothing that does not have a heavenly host, heavenly minister, angel above, however you want to translate the word Sar, Sin Reish, as in Yisrael, as in Sarah. The Hushlucha Shamakom, in very simple terms, God sends you stuff. Right? And God gets you that stuff from his emissaries. You could be an emissary from God. You. Right? Because you have a name. God may call your name in heaven, whatever level where God brings the emanation into, and he will send you to a person. It's a holy mission, shlichus, right? It's a holy mission to that person. You call it friends, bonding, or getting together, but from the divine point of view, it is a divine encounter for the transmission of holiness, Torah transmission, the highest caliber of wisdom and mazel and shefa and bracha. You call it hanging out with Bob. God calls it giving Torah over from one fellow to another. Now it can be through names and people, it can be angels, it can be animals, creation, any creation emanated by God. Reality as we know it. God is the master of creation. His names show that connotation. Kel Shakai, Elohim, Hashem Hu Elohim. All the names of God can funnel into this perspective of God working with man. This is the essence of the anti-idolatry. Idolatry says, I believe in God, but I have lesser demigods to give me my stuff. Okay, so I have a false religion that I have a love affair with this religion, and there's clergy in that religion, and I give my soul and heart and emotions and feelings and everything to the clergy, who is a representative of the divine and manifesting on earth, and I get stuff, and this is the religion. Now, the way that works is when you do Avodah Zarah, you will get stuff, right? You get shefa, but it comes from the backside. It's dirty, it's tameh, it's treif, it's Avodah Zarah, right? It is the dirtiest, it is the low, it is extremely vulgar. But you will get stuff, right? If you go to a drug dealer, you will get what you pay for. It's not like he's just going to take your money and run. Therefore, religion is giving you a filthier version of basically the Holy Temple and the most divine things in the world. For example, you can have a fresh home-cut salad, or you can have a McDonald's cheeseburger or Big Mac, right? We don't need to explain why the Big Mac is not as good of a choice as an organic, healthy, home-cooked meal filled with soul. That analogy works in a lot of things, especially religion. Once you get out of religion, once you get out of the perverse, right? Once you get into real shefa, which is the unadulterated bounty coming from God in the form of light, thought, inspiration, will, desire, action, creation, and not in the form of something low as in basically prostitution, right? You don't get married through prostitution. You don't buy a girl on the street. Mazal, as we will find out, life, sustenance, and offspring is a part of Mazal. So if you endeavor to marry and have children, obviously it is bound in Mazal, and it must come from God. As the Talmud says, what does God do? All day in his domain, in his abode, he is making shidduchim, putting people together, making matches, moving the world. That comes from God himself. This is how you can explain soulmates and divine providence and help of heaven, siyata d'shmaya, all the Mazal, all the wisdom coming directly to you from God as a form of bounty, like the rain on a field, the world's good stuff, right? The good stuff of the world. That is shefa, and that shefa comes to you from Mazal. We're going to explain how you get Mazal, how you connect to shefa. Ultimately, the highest shefa in Mazal is wisdom, that God gives you wisdom through Torah and Kabbalah so that you can recognize your Maker. You need to grow to recognize God and to reject the anti-God, the idolatry where God is not, or what is imitating God, impersonating God, and you will choose the light, holiness, God himself with no intermediary, to have a relationship with the divine that you're having regardless if you know that or not. Wisdom allows you to recognize God. Once you recognize God, then that filters down between brothers recognizing brothers, lovers recognizing lovers, fathers recognizing sons. All the recognition and light goes out in that format. With that said, that can only happen with God at the helm. Anything short of God at the helm, right? My clergyman really loves me. I'm a really happy person. I'm a good person. That's great. You are quite a caliber fellow, but it's not good enough. Right? It is not good enough. It must be from God. Anything else will be compromised and is a form of slavery in the matrix. The point of Mazal Shefa is liberty, to be in the world of freedom, to worship God openly, according to the truth, and receive the truth, and live the truth, and spread the truth of God in this world without any type of filter or barrier. Is that clear? And again, how does God reach us? God is the emanator of creation. The creation is emanating towards and with you. You are part of it. So it's not so much that you are getting stuff, right? You might get money because Bob, the pizza guy, the world needs pizza. Therefore, Bob is waiting for your $5 to buy his pizza. You don't exist. It's all about Bob's pizza. So God needs to give you the $5 so that he can make pizza to sell to the world. Those kind of relationships are the truth. The cat must hunt the mouse. The mouse must die. It's not a matter of killing and murder on that level. The creation is built. The cat will hunt the mouse. The mouse will end up in the mouth of the cat. Which is interesting, because in the Talmud there's a case, I think it was either of a dog biting a man or a snake biting a man, and I think it was a dog, and if I remember correctly, the story goes, you don't have the right to say, the owner of the dog, who's liable for damages, cannot say, it's not my fault, what was your hand doing in my dog's mouth? Right? So your hand is not a mouse that ends up in the cat's mouth. Your hand doesn't end up in a dog's mouth. And remember that point, because we're going to say, man has mazel, animals don't have mazel. So animals are the mazel that we see. The cat ultimately hunting the mouse is for the sake of mankind watching God run the universe according to mazel. Okay? Meaning, the mouse is susceptible to die to the fangs of the cat. But your hand is not destined to enter the mouth of a dog where you will die. You have mazel, the cat, the mouse does not. Therefore, you probably won't die. You didn't die. And now you have to ask a different question. Why did your hand enter my dog's mouth? Or more importantly, why were you hanging out with a guy who let his dog bite you? That would be the appropriate question in mazel in this case. Therefore, everything in creation is mazel for the man experience. But you, remember, are part of the mankind kingdom. And we're all in it together. We're working together. We're transmitting together. And you don't have the right to stand out and say, it's my world. Therefore, that you would say that's a bad thing. Right? I don't have the right to exist. No. What we're saying is, by you not being singled out, that means God is bound to be your God. So if you have a portion of the God of Israel, God is your God. Imagine that, kind of weird term, right? God is your God. So those kind of strange ways of looking at it, then you don't have avodah zarah. Your boss is not your God, right? Your employer is not your God. God is your God. And this is what King David is asking in Psalms over and over and over again. Is God really God? Is God really my God? And he gives an analogy. Every day the birds in the nest look up and say, will God bring me my worm today? Will I get to eat another day? The worm's saying, will I get plucked out of the ground again, by another bird today? And you can say it's the worm doesn't realize he's destined for this little chick. But the way nature works is, let's say the chick is the crown of creation. In this little analogy, he's asking, will I live to eat another day? And God makes the worm kingdom and the bird kingdom, male-female bird kingdom. They got together, they made a nest. Look at the great infrastructure of creation just so one bird can continue to get his worm. A lot of times, like on the internet, the nature television shows, they show you like, God is great. The animal kingdom shows that there's a God. The honey, this kind of bird flaps his wings 5,000 times a day. What a great God there is. Okay, that's fantastic, great. He's a caliber bird. But that's not what it's about. It's about the kingdom working like this almost like robotic display of glory that the worm gets to the bird. That's the glory of God you should focus on. Right? The gazelle ended up in the mouth of the lion. That is glorious. The gazelle knows his fate. Now, it's not the best thing to end up in the mouth of a lion. This is where Judaism comes in and says, hey, boys and girls, this is life. Animals eat animals. The worm will be digested by this bird. You are a man and you will work and you have money, all these things from God, so that you can buy pizza from Bob. And the crown of civilization, crown dafka, keter, is the altar, the mizbeach, in the temple. We offer animals to God. That once upon a time, there will be a gazelle, or whatever animal goes up on the altar for whatever cause, and he will have the knowledge of whatever level. I didn't end up in the mouth of a lion. I ended up on the altar of God. I am going to die. It is a foregone conclusion. Either rotting in the woods, getting drowned in a pond, mouth of a lion, whatever it is. But one guy amongst the herd will end up on the altar, sacrificed as the Holy of Holies on that level for a holy barbecue in the temple, where mankind will be joyous and honoring God, discussing Torah, transmitting Torah. The Shefa goes out to the nations so that there can be just another day of more animals being on the altar. Right? It has nothing to do with sacrifice proper. It's a sanctification of what is reality. Right? Reality is there is death. Things die. But that is actually life. Because King David explains the gazelle will die, it will go into the earth and decompose, and it will come out of the ground through a birth. Right? It will be birthed into the world, and it's just this constant looping cycle. It will wave. Constantly. God is renewing His creation. Now you say, what does He do? He snaps His fingers, waves a wand, and says a chant, and the world's recreated. The fact is, it's a continuous natural nature kingdom of recreation. By bringing the worm to the bird, making a miraculous connection that no one else can do but God, that bird got to live another day to where he will keep doing that. Eventually he will die. He will find himself back in that nest in a new life form, continuing the lifespan of that type of bird. And the worm will live another day. Because when he will die, it be decomposed and go back in the ground. And then another worm family will make another worm. This exists on every molecule, atom, creation, man, water droplet, leaf, tree, dollar bill, pizza from Bob, the crust, the oregano, even spot pizza will live to see another day. God is your God. You have a God. He requires you in creation. This is not a privilege in that respect. It's not a, oh God, I hope you're... No, don't hope anything in those regards. You need to hope that you recognize God. You need to hope that you're good with God. You need to hope that you're good in the court system of God, because man is a little bit different than all the other animals. We have a court system, because we have a Torah. Right? The lion knows, I'm a lion, I eat gazelles. The gazelle says, I'm a gazelle, I may end up in the lion's mouth. And when they get into this little tango, it will go down. When man meets man, he doesn't have a natural inclination to say, I am whatever to Bob, Bob is whatever to me, and we don't have that. It ultimately comes down to the study of Torah. In the soul, man has to think in godly terms. In a split second, I met new person. New person's name is Bob. Who is Bob to me? How do I feel about Bob? All these dimensions are coming into play. And the more Torah you know, the more wisdom you have, it's a seamless state of affairs. And the Torah says, what? Brothers should love brothers. You should have peace on earth. That's our animal kingdom. And the temple is the place where, let's say if there's spilling blood in the form of a sacrifice for sins, or all these things, the penal system due to the nature of judgment in Torah. We are a different breed of animal. And we are an animal. We have a Yetzer Hara, evil inclination. We have an animal soul. Right? We have the animal part. We also have the godly soul. The highest part that comes from underneath the throne of glory, the upper world of Atzilus, right? The world where everything is about freedom and liberty of the spirituality. That you're trying to live in this world. Thus, your job is to elevate the animal and bring in the Mazal, which is the premise of today's class. Adam, the Islay Mazla. A man has Mazal. An animal does not have Mazal. Alright, so we explained the first part. Just get a quick little intro. The first part of the book is where do we find Mazal in Chazal? Right, straight up, nothing weird in astrology. I'm remembering a quote now, before I forget the quote. This should be known for all of time. Hakavana, the Hanhaga Ilyona Nikras Mazal. Means what does it mean that the higher worlds are governed by Mazal? This is a quote taken from Moed Katan 28a in a commentary. He says like this: She'ena kavana al hakochavim, rak anhaga ilyoina knikra mazal. Do you know what that means? The kavana is the meaning of this word mazal, is not on the stars. Rather, it is on the upper worlds called mazal. 100,000,000% mazal does not mean stars. By definition, the avodah zarah that we are to go away from is the stars. Now, the backside mimics the front side. That's a premise in Kabbalah. They are called mazalot, right? The constellations, mazalos. It's avodah zarah friendly. Let's put it that way. Even if you say there's permission, we can do it, right? But once you're under the constellations, right? I have to kill this guy because my name means will kill guy on Tuesday, right? That's not an excuse. That's avodah zarah. You are not to be bound by the constellations and stars. Go out of it and relate to God, right? Why they called those mazalot? The stars. There's an aspect of mazal, okay? An aspect. Look at the fourth day of creation. The sun, the moon, the stars. We have sign of the times, right? So on Shabbos, or the new moon, whatever the things we do in Judaism, the constellations and stars are a part of the mazal structure of spirituality, but not entirely. The stars have as much clout as me with my name, you with your name, and this desk being called by God to emanate a property. Just so happens to be that time is predicated on the spinning of the universe around the earth, geocentrism, and therefore we have to use our universe as vessels to understand our subjective and objective experience on earth. So if my subjective experience on earth is predicated by looking into the heavens to see what was happening in the day of my birth, as symbolic energy of what was going on. I'm a Gemini, for example. So if Gemini has meaning and it's in my birth, just the simple fact that the Torah was given in the month of Sivan, we're coming up on it in a couple days, all these things are mazel signs, right? So imagine my birth in 1978, people all around the world were getting ready for Shavuos. They were all talking about Spheres of Omer and receiving the Torah. So I was born into that energy. Right? My mother may have been listening to a lecture about giving the Torah. There may have been a rabbi coming at my bris, right? And saying, hey, this is a Jewish boy. What are you doing for Shavuos? We're going to be learning all night. Right? That little kid picked up that energy. Right? I didn't hear about Pesach. I didn't hear about Sukkot. I didn't hear about Hanukkah. Right? Those were not being spoken in my bris. What was being spoken was the day of the Omer that I was born in, and the month that I was born in, Shavuos, and people were probably talking Jewish things in my bris. Okay, so wherever you are, there's a reason for it. Now, the month that the Torah was given in was a real thing. There was a month the Torah was given in. So you can call that mazalis, right? The constellations and the stars. And that did affect me. But I was not bound by that month, right? I cannot, you don't say that I can't do anything but learn Torah on Shavuos. No, that's ridiculous. But, in the terms of really quack astrology, my reading might be, based on that time over and over and over again. There's much more to me than just the month of Sivan, right? I celebrate Hanukkah, right? So I'm not limited to the stars that influenced my birth. Therefore, the stars were a vessel of Shlucho Shamakim. Those stars were sent to David Katz to be a digital imprint on my life as terms of my birthday, but obviously my mazel extends well beyond the constellations of the day of my birth. The actual day of my birth in the week, the hour, all those things matter in the terms of the fact that I was born in the morning. Right? So my mother was aware of my birth at 9-something in the morning. Big difference than if it was on midnight on Shabbos. Okay, my son was born midnight on Shabbos. Really wild experience. I had nowhere to sleep in the hospital. It was Shabbos, so I had no food, no bed, no electricity, couldn't take a picture. This little guy was being in the new warden, where babies were, and I was sleeping on hard benches, so I'm going back and forth to stare at this kid, trying to see who my son was. Whereas my daughter was born in the morning, I think on Tuesday, and Chick Chock were coming home, right? Different energy. So my son's first impression of Abba was me hawking at him in hospital, and I'm miserable saying, when can I get to sleep? Right? So that affected the kid. The fact that he was born at midnight on Shabbos. Now, I'm not to say that it was negative, but he's a Shabbos baby, and he felt that energy coming in. Okay? People are aware of these things. And for the rest of his life, I'm going to tell him the story. Yeah, I slept on the couch, or the bed, the chair, and I couldn't sleep, and then he's going to hear that till the day he dies. Because that's his mazel. He doesn't know what it's like to be born at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. He'll never know, ever. So if you were not born at midnight on Shabbos, my son doesn't know what you're talking about. So if you in a mazel kind of universe, if you're talking like, just in a subconscious level, if you're saying like, yeah, I love to have a morning cup of coffee, right? And if the truth underneath all of that is, you're saying, I am a baby born in the morning, therefore I like... Whatever your psychology and makeup became from your plight of life, right? And it's a theoretical domain I'm explaining. My son wouldn't know what you're talking about. His soul would be saying, yeah, I get it. On Shabbos night, I love to do Tikkun Chatzos. Right? Now, will it take those directions? That's fate of Mazal, and how he chooses his Mazal to play out in a totally different story. But don't think you're not influenced by all those things. You are hypersensitive and easily coerced into your Mazal experiences. Right? You resonate. My son will be telling people the rest of his life that he was born at midnight on Shabbos. Not even directly. That's his vibe. He's going to have that vibe. And he's going to lend himself to that vibe. He's like itching to tell people. Because we love to talk about our Mazal. That's how God makes it. We are sensitive. So that way, that's the energy we emit. It's our friction, right? It's our individuality. It's our unique nature. It's our soul. So we're dying to tell our story because we are telling it no matter what. Underneath the surface, that story is being told. So understand that. Everything that happens to you, you're telling it over. And it is different from everybody else. Therefore, we must listen and receive the wisdom of how to understand everyone's story, which is their soul, which is their wisdom experience. It's the Torah that God brings them. It's their mazel. It's their shefa. All these things. And I can tell you, from now being a father for 6 years, my son's highlight, and this is not from my own coercion. I'm just realizing this now. He loves the fact that his Abba learns on Shabbos, right? That's like he talks about it all the time. So you see, fate is working in terms of Mazal is doing what it does according to wisdom. He is a Shabbos adherent. From his little 6-year-old point of view, he understands it. Now, you can say every kid likes it. Maybe so, every religious kid. But the point is, I see the fact that he makes an emphasis there. Right? And it might not be the reason why, but at least we can see it's not antithetical. And the fact is, I'm naturally going there subconsciously pushing it. And in the end of 120 years, you'll look back and you'll say, what was meaningful to you? And this kid will say, Shabbos was meaningful to me. Now, God willing, that'll continue. But as of right now, yeah, that's sanctified. That would be something I would say he is that. I would not say that he is a special 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday kind of guy. I would not say that about him. I would say he is a Shabbos guy. Right? So the name read really goes into these types of things as well. When you get aspects in your name, the hints and gematrias of your name, which is placed by the prophecies of Mazal, right? We're not saying you have this and nobody else, or it might seem common. The fact is, it simply is there, and therefore it does affect. And the concept in the Zohar and in the Talmud is called Shemagarim, the name causes. Right? So the name and all that goes into the name causes. It's true. By the way, I found a gematria for my son's name when he was born. Just apropos, his name is Reuven, which is Reuven, right? To look, a son, Reuven, right from the Torah itself. I made a gematria back then, before Sol Mazal ever came into the universe. I said Reu, listen to this. Reu is Isius or light. The letters that say look is Aleph Vav Resh, makes light. In Ben, Beit Nun, the Nun Sofit, is the gematria Shabbat. 702. So I give a Dvar Torah when he's born that my son is the light of Shabbat. Right? Now he's going to hear that Dvar Torah for the rest of his life. Yada, yada, yada. And there we go. So you see a bit how Mazal is real. It affects. It works. It is your friend. It's your energy. It's what you're trying to tell people. It's the part that's trying to be understood. It's your message. And it's what we love about you and you love about us. That's the correspondence and the rapport. The more you become sensitive to listen, analyze, and find the wisdom and understanding in that, you will find that everybody is shluchos shel makom, sent by God together, basically to serve God. And ultimately, you are the worm or the bird helping his friend, which is a miraculous universe. And when you can begin to connect those dots and stop seeing it like it's called, stop realizing Maisa, all that I do, right? I do things, Maisa, things that we do. There's 3 levels here. The next level is called Poel, right? Working, things I'm involved in, things I'm doing, right? I've done things, I'm doing things. That's already like a 2-dimensional model. The real main model is the third option called Niflaot, that King David talks about in Tehillim. That's when 2 done deeds, 2 maisim, come together in a miraculous way. You never would have thought they go. That's a chiddush. That is not in the realm of simple logic. It's high-level functioning logic. When you can do that, or God is doing it, and you realize it, that is the real Mazal. Don't just say, I made friend, my friend came, we had lunch, goodbye. Don't do that. Right? Try to find out why was the match in heaven made, and what was given. What were the 2 points, antithetical and illogical on the surface, coming together to make a miraculous, magical moment and transfer of divinity of Shefa and Mazal and Bracha. Okay, I think that's pretty clear. Let me say. Now, in the Talmud, we're saying, Mizlayahu Sar Shekol Adon Lamala. In Megillah, the Mazal is the Sar of every man has a Sar above. Then we're going to move on. We've had, that's from Megillah. Then there's Shabbos. Rashi, there's 3 locations of Rashi. Again, Megillah, Rashi and Shabbos. Adam, the Islay Mazla, a man that has Mazal. Mazle Malach Shalo Malitz Alav. Mazal is the angel. His Mazal, particularly, it's his Mazal, is a Malach, an angel. Umalitz Alav. This is a fantastic word. I just want to say it right. It's, you know the word malitz. How would you translate malitz? This is a great word. I want to really embellish this word. A malitz.
Recommender, advisor.
No, like, in front of a podium speaking, being a malitz. How would you say that?
Advocate.
The highest order of advocate. Imagine you have this malach, and again, this is not to say like, oh, I wish it was so. You are part of the Mazal universe. That malach needs you more than you need him. Or it, whatever. And God needs that thing to make the world work. So don't say, oh, I wish it was true, I wish I had it. It is. Your job is to learn the wisdom to connect to these things. To understand how to connect to God. And forget the angel. It's God. It's an extension from God. Right? God places, there's worlds. There's Asiya, Yetzira, Bria, and Etzilas. Right? And there are just like the worm is delivered to the bird, there are angels helping to deliver that worm to the bird. So when you're doing your things in your universe, there are angels cooperating by God's direct command to make it possible. So therefore, it's not to say to work with the angels. That's already going into Avodah Zarah once again. It's to understand the power that you are invested in. You are in a grid of immense, unlimited power. So when you have anything going on in the physical realm of your existence, there's an angel up there proclaiming to the heavens whatever it is you're about and doing in part of God's scheme. Right? It is happening. So when you pray, you're davening, there's an angel that is taking the prayers and proclaiming those prayers in the world of Etzilas into, just like the offerings of the temple, right? We project the animal up into the spiritual realm. Your voice is projected into a cosmic universe. that world's called Yitzchak. Just like the word Yitzchak is an Isaac, if you find in the Navi, it changes the tzaddik to a sin. And King David brings that into him also. It means like schok, fun, and sporting with the Leviathan is one examples. There's two worlds. The right arm of God and the left arm of God, in analogous sake. The right arm of God is God in this world, right? Siyata Deshmaya, divine providence, getting a bracha, Har Sinai, all the divine, God making His presence known in this world. Through men, the natural order of the universe. Then there's the left arm of God, the world that you don't see, right? That's the Mazal that we don't see, right? When you were praying to find a shidduch, and you finally met a girl on the first date, and you show up, and you're looking good, she's looking good, you wanna be happy together. You think that you're just stumbling over your words, and you look dumb, and she's this, and ding, and ding, and ding, and ding, and maybe you're having a hard time speaking. And you're saying, "Oh man, what's wrong with me? Talk! Don't do this, man. Don't shut down. Come on. That's what you think." There's a left arm of God here. That's the whole angelic universe is just buzzing to you. So she's hearing in your words the Mazal message you are unaware of, right? That moment when you say the stupid thing, that was angelic driven universe by God through you for the sake of her getting her shefa, and vice versa. Right? When the waiter spilled the water all over you, and you were like, "Oh, I can't believe this. This is so embarrassing." She says, "Calm down, it's okay." It's no, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. That was that world. Mazal in motion. And you say, why on earth would the guy spill the water from God's ratzon? Who knows? There's a whole latent universe. It could be the waiter by him saying, "I'm sorry," right? And then bending over to clean it up, and he's wearing a shirt that says, "Don't think," right? And then you see it, you get the subliminal message, "Don't think," and then you incorporate it, and that becomes the Yeshua, the salvation through the date. Yeshua means it's the thing that was missing, right? Don't take it again. The word is very big in Hebrew. I know it's taken in perversion by the Klippas, but that's what King David says. It's always bad in judgment until God gives you that light in a salvation moment, right? That aha moment. And that's what that spiritual universe is doing. They're delivering to us those aha moments all the time. Those little synapses that connect that we're not aware of. And when you can get good at connecting those, meaning when the waiter bends over as you spilled the water, you start looking for the moment that God makes those connections. And that's the Mazal. And the difference is when it's instantaneous, it's from God. If there's hesitation, that's just you making it up. So when it's real life, that's the Mazal. Learning from the real life, the gazelle that ends up in the lion's mouth, the waiter that ended up spilling the water in your lap, right? The weird thing that you said, all those little funky things that are death little experiences, that's the real natural universe working in your best favor. And with that said, the last definition we'll find is in Bava Kama. This is very important. Adam de Isle Mazla, again, same language, a man that has Mazal, Behema de Leisle Mazla. An animal does not have Mazal. Rashi explains. Ha'adam de Isle Mazla, sheyesh lo das lishmor es gufo. And when a man has Mazal, he has das, mochin, intellect running through him, awareness, consciousness, knowledge, Torah. He is a man. He is human. Right? The animal's not chazering Bava Kama and his hilchos whatever before he avoids falling into a pit. He just falls into a pit. It's a bad day for that animal. He died. He ended up in the pit. Better than the mouth of a lion. You don't end up dead in the pit. As you learn Bava Kama to avoid pits, or whatever it is you're doing, you have das. And when you have das, you have lishmor. You're guarded. Right? You understand, don't go into the bad neighborhood. You understand, get dressed before you go out of the house. You understand, think before you cross the street. Animals don't do that. Even though we might see it on YouTube. They don't really do it, not the way you do. And that's mochin. Mochin is the intellect that comes from God. Right? When you go through experiences, you get mochin. You're in a divine Mazal universe. All those messages are coming in non-stop, meaning you swim in wisdom, you just don't know how to scoop it out with a ladle. But when you do start to scoop it out with the ladle, you become familiar with your world, then you have das, you have mochin, intellect, you're connected, thoughts can come in, you don't push them out. That is guarding. And the guarding is on your body, gufo. Meaning you do now start to be able to become liberated, to do holy actions. You can do mitzvot, kind deeds. You are not a slave to the matrix. You're free. That's what that is. You don't die by simply slipping on a banana peel. Instead, you sue the mall for putting a banana peel on the floor. Right? And the last point is, you are not easy to kill like an animal. And that's where you get the whole Sitra Achra. Because to kill this guy, now we have to get a conspiracy. Right? We just can't hope that he slips on a banana peel and dies and goes away. Right? To get this guy taken out in the Sitra Achra, there has to be a conspiracy. Right? Because man has Mazal. It's like the movies. Right? The good guy always escapes. And the bad guy, that's Mazal. There's a Mazal for this. The point is, you live 120 years, you have a lifespan, a God, a part of the world, you have Mazal. The angelic world is serving you for the sake of God bringing Shefa into the world. And the real etzem concept, we're going to end on this note, is the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash is where the Mazal of man, the Shefa comes down, we're working the temple, and all that Shefa goes out. So eventually we start becoming interactive with the God of Israel in the world, in reality, where wisdom and Shefa and Mazal and Bracha and Banim and Mazal and Chaim, all these things are part of living. And now prayer becomes heard. God comes to you. And we're ending this. God comes to you. You go to God. You understand Him. He understands you. You understand your friends. Everything has a message. Everything is shlucho shel makom. That is that you have Mazal and animals don't have Mazal. Thank you very much. Stay tuned for the next segment. Thank you.